guys, today we are going to talk about shadow work and about triggers and being triggered, and basically what is shadow work. Now, I've noticed a lot of people have been asking what exactly is shadow work, how do you do shadow work, and asking for assistance with shadow work. So shadow work is, in a nutshell, we are triggered and we need to acknowledge the trigger, and the trigger is mirroring something back at us. It is literally a mirror of ourselves, and that's sometimes quite hard to accept and quite hard to acknowledge, and that's why literally all shadow work is about being reflective and acknowledging and accepting that the trigger is there for our benefit. So if I was to explain to you, and I'm going to talk about the 5 bodies, and I'm going to give you a little bit more detail about the 5 bodies, but when we are working with shadow work, we take into account the 5 bodies, and like I said, I'll go into a bit more detail with that. We take into account triggers and what our triggers are, and I'll give you some examples of what triggers are. We talk about the soul versus the persona and what the difference is there, and we also talk about, sorry, I've just got notes over here and I don't want to forget anything, and we also talk about the vibrational scale. So the first thing I want to talk about is, as you start on your journey with shadow work, and it's wonderful that you actually are doing that, it's amazing, we need to understand that we start to talk on a vibrational scale too. So what that means is we are no longer talking about things that are good or bad, things that are positive or negative. We are only talking about a low vibrational or a high vibrational emotion or a high vibrational experience. We're no longer talking about good or bad, and because that will actually come up in your shadow work as one of the things to be cleared, and we pretty much all have to clear it, is we have to clear judgment. And of course, as long as we're playing polarities, good and bad, we are standing in judgment, and if everything's a mirror, we are judging ourselves. Even though we may think we're judging others, we are judging ourselves. So that's just one point, and we do have a video out there on the vibrational scale. So if you're not sure what the vibrational scale is, go and have a watch of that. It'll really help you, and it'll really just help to sort of concrete in what we're talking about when we talk about high vibrational and low vibrational. But just to give you a little summary, your high vibrational scale is where you are joy, bliss, love, peace. Low vibrational scale is where you are having feelings of guilt, victimhood, shame, anger. So just to give you an idea of what we talk about when we talk about a vibrational scale, and it is basically a frequency that you are actually on. So that's one side of it. The other side is we have our soul, and when we have come in for this incarnation, we have an objective, and our objective is often to clear old wounds. We might have karma that we've come to clear, and we have basically made a contract, and it can be with it'll definitely be with your family, but it can be with multiple different beings, and the contract is basically for them to help us clear. We're having an experience for one thing, but also for them to help us clear certain karmas, but also wounds that we may have that we now want to let go of. They no longer serve us to hold. So in this lifetime, you may have a reoccurring experience with some of those wounds, or you may not. This lifetime, it can be either or, but generally what you're coming to clear is previous lifetime or previous lifetimes worth of wounds or karma. So your soul has made an agreement. You've come into this incarnation on earth, and obviously you're born as a baby, But the persona of who you become is not your soul. The persona is almost like the mask that you put on. The persona is, and particularly as you go through life and as you get older, the persona has a couple of different factors that come into play. Your belief systems, your perceptions, your programming, and I'll talk a bit more about that. What you eat, your chakras, any deeply suppressed emotions that you may have, all of those are going to play a part in this persona. And your soul, together with your guides, are going to basically trigger you when you basically go off course. And they're triggering the persona, so that comes into the awareness of the persona that you are off course. The persona is basically the role you're playing, because you actually choose like a character. When you come in for this incarnation, you actually sort of choose a character. So that's one side of it, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit more detail. So everything, and now this is where shadow work gets so simple. It's not easy, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's really simple. Everything is a mirror. So if you can accept that everything is a mirror, and it is merely reflecting whether your persona is on track or not on track, you start to bring that into your awareness, and you stop feeling helpless to the situation. You stop feeling like a victim. You stop feeling like, why is this always happening to me? And you start being aware of what's happening around you, but you also become grateful and appreciative for it, because you are aware that it is merely either showing you that you're perfectly on track, or that you're slightly off track, and you need to just basically realign yourself back into alignment with your soul. So when we are dealing with our shadow work, we have to keep in mind that we've actually got 5 bodies that are at play that we need to take heed of and be in our awareness of. The first one is our physical body. That's all about our matter, our cells, our organs, our tissues, our systems of the body, like our digestive system, our circulatory system, our reproductive system. This is what keeps us existing on Earth, one could say, in the 3D. We've then got our mental body, and our mental body is all about our thoughts. What are we thinking? Our perceptions, it's our programming, it's our core beliefs. And I'll go over that in a little bit more detail with you. Our emotional body, that's our emotions. It's our relationship to all, and it's how we feel. So whether we are feeling happy, sad, angry. Our energy body. Now that is our chakras and our energy centers that are in our body. Our aura, it is our energy, but it's also the collective energy that we do actually have an ability to tap into, and it's how we manifest either as an individual or as a collective. And the final one is our spiritual body. Now our spiritual body is our consciousness, it's our soul, it is divine, and it is where we develop our oneness. Our soul will always exist. Naturally, our body won't always exist, but our soul is, of all of them, it is the one that will always exist. And our purpose here is to experience oneness. Now I'll go into a bit more detail about that as well. So if we go back up to the physical body. Beautiful. So how does the physical body come into play when we're dealing with shadow work? So the physical body is, again, our matter, it's our cells, it's our organs. So in a couple of ways this is going to play out. So the first one is obviously if we have been eating foods that are low vibrational and not healthy for the body. So I'm talking about preservatives, highly acidic foods, sugars, your junk food, dairy. These are very, and meat is highly acidic. Those are foods that are very, very acidic, very inflammatory on the body. So they will cause dis-ease and the body will have discomfort, aches and pains. Now, we can just ignore it, or we can listen to it as a messenger. What is the body mirroring back to us? So that's one side of it. But the other side of the physical body is that if we don't listen to our emotions or to our energy, it will eventually manifest in a physical element in the body. So that's one side of it. And again, mirroring back a message to us. The mental body. So the mental body is our thoughts. So if we stop and be reflective of what our thoughts are we having low vibrational thoughts? In other words, are we having thoughts where we are very critical of ourselves, where we are feeling shame, where we are hating our experiences and we're saying things like that? Or are we having thoughts that are much higher in a vibration? Are we saying, I love this experience, I'm loving what I do every day? So it's about becoming reflective of what our thoughts are. Also, it's about being reflective of our core beliefs, our programming and our perceptions. What it means by that is, do they serve us? We can continue them without being reflective, or we can actually stop and say, do they actually serve us? Or is that programming serving us? Are those core beliefs serving us? That's our thinking. So with our emotional body, that's all about our emotions. So a lot of us have got blocked emotions or deeply suppressed emotions, and we will get mirrored with generally low vibrational emotions will come up. And what that is, it's showing us that we are needing to acknowledge those emotions, and basically, instead of discarding them, and instead of just avoiding that they don't exist, acknowledging them and almost like melting them away. In the acknowledgement, we melt them away. The energy body. We have to understand that we are energy, and that our chakras, and we have our main 7 chakras, but we've actually got multiple chakras in the body. And if our chakras are out of balance, if our chakras are blocked, again, it is a mirroring of a message. We need to take heed of what the message is. What are we here to clear? What are we here to bring back into balance? And then lastly, it's our spiritual body. And our spiritual body, like I said, that was all about your soul and your consciousness. Now, really important is, as we move along on our ascension journey, we will eventually allow the consciousness to accept this all as oneness. But it does take time. So don't expect that to happen overnight. But really, what our oneness is all about is, it's about us understanding that we really are all one, and connecting into a consciousness of ourselves, connecting into consciousness of trees, connecting into the consciousness of Gaia, and beyond Earth, beyond, so universal consciousness. So this does happen as you move on with your shadow work, with your ascension journey, with your clearing. So don't expect this to happen on its own, but eventually you will get there where you are connecting to the oneness, and in that oneness you absolutely will feel unconditional love. So as we move along on our ascension or shadow work journey, we you don't have to expect it to happen all at once. It's not going to. It's literally a layering of removing who we are not, so that we can actually find out who we are. Now, what I wanted to say is, when I was talking about programming and you'll have your core beliefs will come into play, and you'll have some program that will come into play. Why I wanted to bring that up is, in this current sort of third dimensional reality, there's been a lot of manipulation. And that is busy being exposed and busy being cleared. And we used to have the veil, and as of a few days ago, really the veil's been taken down, which is amazing. But in that, there has been a manipulation. So we have literally been programmed. And what I mean by that is there's been a controllers on earth that have really wanted to keep us very low vibrational, and they haven't wanted us to actually look at our triggers like, wow, that's a wonderful gift, somebody is reflecting back at me. They rather wanted us to look at our triggers and to say, how dare that person say that to me? And so they never wanted us to see the benefit of our triggers, because the minute we saw that, we started to heal, and that really wasn't in their favor. That wasn't their objective. They wanted humans to stay low vibrational. So social media, TV, that is all programming, and I don't want to talk too much about it as in the details behind it. There's lots of videos you can find out about who the controllers are and how they've programmed us, and most of those documentaries are absolutely correct. But to be honest with you, we have been almost like manipulated, and but we need to take ownership now, and we need to understand that our triggers are really blessings. They really are that are our friends, one could say, and they are really here to help us sort of realign before we sort of just go off the tracks, if that makes sense. So I'm going to actually put up a little diagram, and it's going to just be an analogy of a road, and if you go off the road. So I'll talk about it, and it'll bring in different aspects, and it just helps you to sort of just get a really good understanding of how we sort of see the triggers, and if we don't listen to the triggers, where that sort of takes us. But as you go along your shadow work journey, it's really important to understand that as the layers come off and you are ultimately heading along the journey to unconditional love, that you will no longer be standing in judgment. You'll no longer be righteous. All of these will come up. We will no longer have feelings of of lack. We won't feel where we're feeling a lack of worthiness. We're no longer feeling like we're not enough. We'll have all of these type of feelings will come up and mirror back to us, so that we can acknowledge it, dissolve it. We don't have to talk about it for hours. We don't have to overthink it. The magic is really in that immediate awareness that this is a mirror, and what is the mirror teaching me? Now, obviously part of our programming is we have been kept in a victim mentality, and we've got to be aware of that. So what happens is something happens and we go, oh, look at poor me, I'm so unlucky, look how this always happens to me. And as long as we're in that mentality and we are asking those questions, which are really the wrong questions to ask, the triggers will just continue, and we almost like linger in this very low vibrational place, but also where we are almost like we're like just incurring more and more suffering, one could say. However, if when we have a trigger, we reframe it and stop then and there and go, okay, so what is this teaching me? Not why is this happening to me, what is this actually teaching me? And I really appreciate that trigger happened, so that it can bring me back into balance. It can put me back onto the path. We stop any need to further sort of punish ourselves. It brings it into our awareness immediately, and we realign with our soul. So we really want to start understanding that we instead of basically judging, we have more compassion for people, instead of and far more acceptance, and we're no longer in this, righteousness of I'm good and they're bad. We show compassion and acceptance as we sort of layer down and clear those shadows that are mirroring back to us, and ultimately to where we will be living in unconditional love, which means we then are showing compassion, we're not judging, we are accepting people's choices, and that then will mirror back to us. So what I mean by that is when we are actually accepting others to live their lives fully, that mirrors back to us. We can then live our lives fully. When we are absolutely just giving out love, love will mirror back to us. Everything is a mirror, but when we are off balance and we are on a lower vibrational path, lower vibrational experiences will mirror back to us. But we still have come to clear wounds and let those wounds go, and that has to come into our awareness. The minute they come into our awareness, they almost dissolve like magic. But I'm going to put a board up now, and I'm going to talk about sort of like, just to give you an analogy of how beneficial our triggers actually are. So guys, what I want to do is I'm going to give you a little analogy so that it can really simplify what our triggers are, so that we reframe our thinking and our programming, and we start to see our triggers for the actual blessings they are. So let's say, just for the purpose of this, and excuse the drawing, but I don't really, I'm not an artist and I'm not trying to get points for artwork. So this is you, and you having this incarnation on earth, and you're driving along, and this is you where you're heading. So it's not a straight path, it's a windy path, and there's meant to be experiences along the way. And these are your wake-up bumps. These are the little bumps along at the end of the road. And if you go over those bumps, so you're driving along, and sometimes we are chatting, or we lose focus, or we get a bit sleepy, and we sometimes come off the road. And when we come off the road, so we come off the road over here, and when we feel these bumps, we just detour back onto the road, if that makes sense. So we don't overthink it. We're driving along, we're on our journey, which is your experience, let's say, and as you sort of lose focus, get sleepy, whatever, you come off the road, you suddenly jerk, and you come back on the road, realizing that you've hit your wake-up bumps. You don't go, those jolly wake-up bumps, oh, were so rude, or how dare they. You say, that's amazing, thank you so much for that wake-up bump, that's awesome. You're so appreciative for the wake-up bump, because it sort of didn't shock you, it just rattled you a little bit back into alignment. And you don't have to overthink it. How many of us have actually had gone off the road? Most of us have, probably, onto the wake-up bumps, and we've gone back on the road. You don't pick up the phone and phone a friend. You don't talk about it for hours to people. You just go, oh, that's amazing, wonderful, thank you, and you're back on the road. Now, your wake-up bumps, that is your trigger. So when you at the supermarket, or when you at the pharmacy, or when you're at home with a loved one, and you are getting triggered, or somebody is, in your perception, again, it's always your perception, is being rude to you, or disrespectful, or whatever it is, that is a trigger, and you're getting triggered, you're getting irritated by it, or you're getting feeling discomfort by it. That's a trigger. All that is that's the wake-up bump, that you are losing focus and coming off the road. And it's an easy fix. You just autocorrect. It's not a major. There's no accident. You haven't caused any damage. You literally are just autocorrecting back on the road. And you're very appreciative for the wake-up bumps. Now, the same should happen with your trigger. If you literally just, let's say the lady at the pharmacy was rude to you, and instead of leaving the pharmacy and wanting to talk about it for hours and get so mad about it, and now you want to put a review in about it. But at no stage are you understanding there was a mirror, there was a trigger, and it was for you to autocorrect. It was for you to autocorrect. It had nothing to do with them. It was only for you to autocorrect. And when that happens, so if you have an experience like that, instead of continuing the experience but not actually bringing it into your reflective awareness, so the minute you bring it into your reflective awareness and you go, okay, wow, what is that? What was that trying to teach me? It melts it away. It's no longer an issue, and you've auto-corrected. So that's really what a trigger is. But most of us don't do that. We go to the pharmacy. Lady at the pharmacy is rude to us, and I'm just using this as an example now, so not everybody at the pharmacies are rude, and we get in the car and we phone somebody and complain about it. We phone the manager and we complain about it. We want to but at no stage are we reflecting back on ourselves. And this is what changes. So instead of auto-correcting, so we've come off, we've hit the bump, instead of auto-correcting and really simple fix, just going back onto the road, by us not acknowledging the problem, and by us talking about it but not taking any accountability, not understanding it's a mirror, we now are in the gravel. Now if you go off the road and you don't take heed of the wake-up bumps and you get into the gravel, it's a lot more shaky. You've lost a lot more control of your car. You can start to get scratches, and now you're in the gravel. And as you can imagine, and we've all been there as well, when you're in the gravel and your chest is closing up and you're trying to autocorrect. Lot more difficult to autocorrect, but possible. So we almost like losing control of the car, but we can, and we generally, but it takes much longer, and we finally can autocorrect back on the road, but we can do it. But if we just autocorrected here, it would have been a non-event. Autocorrected back on the road and continue on our journey. But here we needed a bit more of a shake-up. Now that's what's happening. What I'm talking about with shadow work is, because you didn't listen to the first trigger, the next trigger has to be more profound. So it can't just be another rude lady at the supermarket. It's got to be more profound. It can't just be another wake-up bump. It's got to be more profound than that. It's got to be a bit like being on the gravel. And again, sometimes it comes into comes into us being self-reflective, and we say, okay, I need to stop. What is this showing me? What is this teaching me? Wonderful. That's us autocorrecting back on our path. And being appreciative for the gravel that was almost still a barrier over here. Thank goodness for the gravel. Oh my goodness, can you imagine if the gravel wasn't there? So appreciative of it. But some of us, again, will go off the road. We won't listen to the wake-up bump. We get on the gravel and we are determined to do things our way. And instead of staying on the gravel, instead of trying to autocorrect back onto the road, we totally lose control and we land up in a ditch. Now, easy to autocorrect, much harder to autocorrect, but still possible, virtually impossible. We now have probably blown a tire, we are stuck in the ditch, and a much bigger deal. So why I'm showing you this is because this is generally what most of us do. And like I said, we were almost programmed into doing it. So when you start bringing this into your awareness and you understand that if you autocorrect here, so your first trigger, I'm really thankful for it, and it's what is this teaching me? about myself? What is this teaching me about myself? Not about the other person. You've auto-corrected you back on the road. If you miss that message, that trigger, you're getting a bigger trigger here, but you can still almost like auto-correct and with minimal damage. But if you leave it until here, what happens is, this is why we have so many times where we actually feel like we're suffering in life. We're constantly suffering in life because we miss the triggers and we land up in the ditch. And now we've got to get a tow car to pull us out. We've incurred so many more costs. Our car's no longer driving. We've blown some tires. So almost what's happened is our guides and our soul, because we just determined not to listen to the trigger, to the message, to the realignment, they've had to almost stop us on our path, if that makes sense. So really, ideally what we want to do, we want to move along on our path, lose focus, which is absolutely fine, lose focus, come off the path, which is a gentle trigger, which most of us don't even have to overly think about it, which could be somebody just being a bit rude to us or somebody snapping at us. We mirror back at ourselves. What is this showing me? What is this reflecting? And what is this teaching me about myself? We auto-correct and we're back on the road. Not a problem. And if we can get into the habit of that, layer by layer, we start bringing into our awareness and we start just gently taking away and almost like dissolving all of our shadows. We start being less judgmental of people. We start being much more compassionate. We start being showing love for people. We stop needing to stand in righteousness. We stop saying what's right and wrong. We acknowledge that it's merely just a low vibrational experience or a high vibrational experience. And so we continue on our path. Now, there are a couple of things that you can do. I hope that helps, guys. I hope that helps just to, it's a very simple analogy, but it just shows you that you would never turn around if you bumped a wake-up bump and say, how dare that wake-up bump be? How dare it be there? You would go, thank goodness for the wake-up bump. And that's what we've got to allow. We've got to start to be grateful and appreciative of our triggers, because they really are gifts. They are here to mirror to us what we are putting out, if that makes sense. So there are a couple of things that we can do. So I'm just going to put this board down, guys. There are a couple of things that we can do that really do help us along the journey. The first thing is, I really want you to, and I know it's not easy, I'm not saying it's easy, but try and keep it simple. You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to linger in the thought. You don't. It's not about feeling bad. It's not about that at all. It's merely about bringing that trigger into your awareness, asking what it teaches you, listening to your intuition, seeing what it says, and then dissolving it. It's literally that simple. But also, some of us have got deeply rooted emotions and that are deeply rooted and deeply suppressed that we do need to clear. And there are things you can do. Writing. Sit down and write down what you feel, but have no intention to send it. Burn it. Very powerful. Ho'oponoponos. They are so therapeutic. If any of you don't know what Ho'oponopono is, message us, send us a line, and we can definitely help you and set you on track with that. That's all about forgiveness, acknowledging, thank you, I love you, please forgive me. So Ho'oponoponos really help with shadow work. And like I say, if you're not sure what we're talking about, just send us a message and we can definitely guide you. And then as far as your energy is concerned, there's a lot that you can do to clear out dense energy, which is vitally important while you're on this journey. It really is important while you're on this journey. Guys, I really hope that helps. I hope it helps to put things into perspective for you. I hope it helps for you to understand some of the basics. It's basic, but some of the basics behind shadow work, and to understand really at the end of the day, everything is a mirror back at us. Everything is mirroring. So if it's not what you like mirroring back at you, I'm afraid that is what the persona, not your soul, but what your persona is mirroring out into this third dimensional experience. And it is then a message to us of, do we want this to continue? Is this what we want to manifest, or do we want to change it? And we don't have to feel bad. We don't have to feel guilty. We literally just have to keep asking it's a magical question. What is this wanting to teach me? What do I need to let go of? What emotions do I need to liberate? If you can ask those questions, and you can literally just ask yourself, they will appear. And again, it might appear as another trigger, but it will appear. And instead of just saying, oh my gosh, how could that have happened? Thank you. I acknowledge that. I sit in that. I just allow it to flow and let it go. We have come back in this incarnation to acknowledge our wounds, but to let them go. That's all we have to do. We just need to acknowledge that we are holding them. They do not serve us, and then let them go. And the minute we do that, we have set ourselves free. Definitely inner child healing is vital when you are doing your shadow work, because the inner child holds so many emotions that haven't been acknowledged. And remember, I said you have to acknowledge it. So the inner child is huge. And again, they hold the key to so much of your healing. We have a wonderful inner child meditation. We've got a talk that Des has done on the inner child, which I'd highly recommend you watch. And often we don't even realize our inner child has suppressed emotion. So really important to do some inner child healing if you are on your shadow work, on your ascension path, and if you are doing shadow work. Well, I hope that helps. Like I say, if you've got any questions, drop us a line and we will do our best to help. Thanks, guys.